The U.S. government just acknowledged that they picked Chainlink, partnered with the U.S. Department of Commerce to put official government macroeconomics data on chain. But it's not just Chainlink. We're also seeing treasury companies here with Chainlink, $2.9 billion asset manager,
but it's not
real
just
estate
Chainlink.
We're also seeing that is treasury companies here with Chainlink. Okay, let me fix this damn thing. Shit. All right. I'm going to start over because we got to get this right. Breaking, Chainlink just partnered with the U.S. Department of Commerce, aka the U.S. government is picking Chainlink to put macroeconomic data on chain, but it's not just Chainlink. We're also seeing this real estate company, $2.9 billion asset manager, is basically building up their own, basically link reserve on their balance sheet. But we also see Pith is part of that story, along with the U.S. government picking some of their data also to be oracleized and everything that they're doing, bringing it on chain. So we're seeing major moves in terms of integrations and implementations of blockchain, really giving it an absolute overwhelming stamp of approval. And we can see the Chainlink price made a massive move here to, about 9% to the upside in a little bit of a drawdown now, but that's okay because we're also seeing things like Pith took an absolutely monumental move to the upside. But considering where this has come from, I mean, this is a massive move, yes, but considering where it's come from, this is about, I think, 86% move to the down, 93% move to the downside. And so even with that pump, you're still down 82%. But does this mean that we're starting to see the signs and signals for the altcoin market to really heat up? We're going to be getting into it here in just a moment. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and get into it right now. I just need to make sure that as we are getting this started and rolling in, everybody hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding the bell, and retweet this, share this out to all your friends and colleagues. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter show today, so let's make sure that we are sharing this out, whether it's from my page over at Kelly Kellam. It's also going to be shared on the Discover Crypto page as well as the BitLab Academy page. But with that being said, everybody, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're feeling good. Hope your markets, hope your portfolios are still looking like they're in the green, especially if you're holding altcoins. Hopefully you are up respectively to what we're seeing in the Bitcoin price, because why would you hold alts if you're not up against Bitcoin? Now, diving into the data, what are we seeing? We're sitting that same spot, very neutral on the fear and greed index, still hovering roughly around that $4 trillion market cap. Now, one of those things that we've been talking about in terms of the risk on, risk off narrative in this market was what was going to happen with NVIDIA. Last night, we got the earnings report. They beat earnings and they beat estimates. And yet we saw the price action do something that we've been talking about in the crypto market. I've been speaking of it specifically here on the BitLab Academy channel for the last year plus, and that is the fake outs that we're seeing in the market. There's so much expectation that there's also fear involved that is able to really be triggered immediately, because people are expecting good earnings, good revenue, beating those things like we saw on NVIDIA, and yet the market pumped and then dumped and then came back to equilibrium. Now, why is that? Because when you get so much expectation in an asset, whether it's NVIDIA, Apple, Bitcoin, Ethereum, it doesn't matter the asset, but when you have a bubble in the expectation, it makes it ripe for manipulation in the price action, because they can take advantage of that. And we can see it very clearly right now, looking at the liquidation heat index on Bitcoin. This shows you the expectation and the ability for them to absolutely manipulate you, because you have essentially this trap city set up here with a lot of liquidity above as well as a lot of liquidity below, of people going long here. This is a liquidity down here. If it moves down into this zone, it will force them to sell and go short. And of course, up here, these are people going short. If the price moves up into this region, it will force them to close their shorts and go long, aka free liquidity for big market makers and big money players to essentially give an uncertain direction of what's going on in the market. There's a little bit of uncertainty here. In fact, I had a different thumbnail, different title for this stream before the Chainlink news broke, and that was Chop Timber. I think we're going to have a bit of a choppy September. And historically, man, I cough every time we start the stream. Excuse me. The majority of Septembers we've had in the market, especially in bull markets, have been fairly bearish. They've been down months, especially when you follow a very bullish July and August. We've historically seen rough Septembers. Now, This is on the caveat where everybody is going back to that word, expecting a lot more bullishness to come into the crypto market. And while I think that still is the case, I think we need to be a little bit risk hedged, even if that means, doesn't necessarily mean you have to exit the market, but at least hedge your patience here. Realize that there's going to be a high likelihood of some choppy price action going into September. And again, we can see this just in the lack of directionality here, a very equal split of people thinking long and people thinking short on the charts. So now, while we got incredible news with the US government picking Chainlink, in fact, the partnership here with the US Department of Commerce and Chainlink, but also with Pith, basically bringing a lot of veracity on chain. Now, I saw a comment on the post that I did because I said the US government picks Chainlink. If you don't see what's coming, I can't help you. Stack link. And then, of course, we get let me refresh this page. Of course, I get a comment on here, and I just think it's very ill-informed right here. So I should buy Chainlink because the US government is going to use a few hundred link tokens a year to put data on the blockchain. No, this is irrelevant. I am not saying buy Chainlink because the US government is basically deploying a partnership here and going to be utilizing this. This speaks to the meta of what's happening, the acceptance of what's happening on blockchain, the real use case, and it getting integrated and deployed by the US government actually gives it an overwhelming stamp of approval for other corporate players, for other big money investors and speculators out there, realizing that blockchain is not just a fad anymore. It's not just this thing that people think it's going to be like Beanie Babies or tulips, like the tulip mania back in the 1600s and the Dutch tulip mania. No, blockchain is the next evolution. This is like the Industrial Revolution with their train tracks and what the train tracks did to change the way national commerce and international commerce worked. Now we're seeing the same thing happen, and the cities that are going to be built and the financial centers online that are going to be built because of blockchain. So yes, the US government looking and acknowledging that they're going to be integrating some of these blockchain technologies in their different aspects of the different sectors of their administration and processes. This is an overwhelming win for what it signals to the rest of the market. So let's just make sure that we're keeping our heads up about that and stacking smart and realizing that corporate money is going to be the main driver of the blockchain market in the next several years as the world wakes up to this. And it's going to be the big money players that are really going to identify which ones are the biggest winners. And again, we're seeing things like this. Caliber, which is a $2.9 billion asset manager, stacking in. We see this right here. Just announced they're putting Link on their balance sheet, not just buying tokens, they're integrating Chainlink into their business. This is going to be the story of the next 5 to 10 years of people waking up to what's going on. Now, the question is, what is going to happen in crypto? What's going to happen with Bitcoin in September? Right now, it's looking a little dreary. It's looking very bearish. But is that a signal that it's actually going to be bearish, or is this just another opportunity setting up for us? Is this going to be a bear trap and then followed by potentially a bull trap, just taking people's money that are impatient? Impatient money is going to flow to people that are more patient. So the question for you is, are you patient? Are you going to be collecting free money in this market, aka buying dips, buying discounted assets? Because what we're seeing here is that the global bid-ask ratio has been a reliable gauge for years. Right now, it's looking ugly. Much like we see in this red here, a lot more bids. And what do we see? Boom, this price action gets soft and then breaks down. Okay, again, right here comes into that pre-halving top at $74,000. Right as this flash, we went into a 7-month sideways price action. So is this a signal that September's actually going to crash? Well, considering what we've seen this entire bull market cycle for Bitcoin, we've had these large moves up with some retraces along the way, but forming this base, this rising level of support. Break down out of it, essentially bear trap, consolidate, move up. Okay, form a new base, break down out of it, bear trap. This chopped in both directions several times, and then break out of it to a new highs and form a new base. Break down out of it, form a bear trap, bull trap, bear trap, double, basically just washing people out in these choppy zones on these consolidation points before a move up. Again, we formed a new base on these consecutive highs. We got it 109 and the 123 and the 124.6 break down. While this does suggest things are looking quite bearish, I think this is going to be a near-term chop out showing that we're going to break down here. We may move down a little bit more or move sideways for basically the majority of this month. And sideways does mean potentially a little bit more breakdown, a resurgence into a bull trap, another breakdown, a bear trap before we move higher. Because we could see on the RSI, this is nowhere near where we saw the reversals in the previous consolidations. So note that right now before you get too exuberant about how excited we are, even with this news from Chainlink, US government picking Chainlink. A lot of this is going to be somewhat determined based on what happens in the Bitcoin market and especially the Ethereum market. And if the market actually does have that capital defending lows here. So we want to see what plays out here. I'd just say be a little bit patient hedged here. I do think this is still going to resolve to the upside. I just think we have a few weeks before we get that signal because this RSI signal is way too high, in my opinion, for us to get it right now. Now, that doesn't mean exit the market. It just means be willing to look for opportunities if we do drop down. How you doing? We got Lisa in the house, Alexandra G, Granny's Garden, Miguel, Roch Burns. What's up? We got My Crypto Space, Kevin C, Wispy, Jesse Michaud, Andy D. We got the crew in the house. How's everybody doing? We got 1,000 people in the room. Big love to each and every one of you. Get active in this live chat if you're not yet. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Subscribe and follow, whether you're watching on YouTube or Rumble. If you're watching on X and you found your way here through somebody else sharing this, follow this channel. This is the Kelly Kellam channel on X, on YouTube, and Rumble. It's BitLab Academy. Make sure you're just following along because we've been keeping you guys on the right side of the trend. Now, another somewhat bearish signal here, which actually could be setting up for very strong bullishness, is this is the largest long liquidation dominance meeting, people going long and then getting liquidated because the market moved down since the crash back here on the Chinese mining, ban back in 2021. The market crashed that then followed up to new highs. This is as high. This is almost as high as what we saw back here. But what did this mark? This came into right when we actually ended up setting up a reversal back to the upside. And look at the price structure here. Very different. A lot more bullish structure in what we're seeing in the price action right here. So be a little bit patient here. I think we're going to see some wonderful stuff. Jesse Michaud said it's a great channel. Kelly is incredible with his explanation and TA. I appreciate you, Jesse. I appreciate each and every one of you that tunes in here. We are all a family. We're riding this wave together. The whole world's getting reshaped by what's happening with blockchain. So let's wake up to that. And then we got Van X CEO says ETH is the Wall Street coin. Now, whether or not this is the case or this is just positive PR because they're making investments in ETH, we have seen an enormous shift and in the narrative around Ethereum in the last 3 months. 3 months ago, ETH was dead. Now it's a singing praise of what's going on because we got people like Bitmain, right? We also have Bitmine. We also have SharpLink, all the basically ETH treasury companies that are stacking in. And Tom Lee is even so far as, basically raising up to $20 billion to basically really stack into an ETH treasury. And this is very important because much like we were just talking about with Chainlink and the US government, as well as other major players out there that are going to be integrating and figuring out ways to integrate different types of blockchain technology, stablecoins are probably going to be among the largest integrations that we're going to see in the next 5 years. Stablecoins are large in part on Ethereum. Now, of course, we've seen some movement with Bitcoin also now going to be having, settlement also within USDT. So Tether's making some moves to have their stablecoin on Bitcoin as well. But Ethereum is basically the official winner of how much liquidity from stablecoins is on chain within the Ethereum ecosystem. So that's going to be major for the ETH ecosystem, in addition to, all these ETH treasury companies stacking in. And that's going to be good for the broader altcoin market as well. So let's look at that, because again, this is going to be a little bit shorter show today, because I got to run over and hop on a deal with the Mario Nafal channel. But we're looking at Ethereum. Let's look at this on a cleaner chart. All right, we got this rising channel that goes back to 2017. Look at this, base here, rejection here, base here. So we know this is a valid trend line. Then we have this trend line coming up to these two tops. Parallel channel to the upside. Okay, scary time back inside, find support, launch. So we know, although this fell out, this did basically resubstantiate that trend line. Look at this, on this bounce, candle bodies all stayed above this trend line. Now moving up, found some trouble at the previous range highs. See this? Now rejection, now launched through into new all-time highs on ETH. But we're still regionally, I would argue, kind of regionally, we haven't really broken all-time highs. If you also take into account the US dollar inflation since then, I don't think we break all-time high on ETH until we're somewhere up into, it's like 5,300 or something like that. So, but just looking at the chart, we have broken all-time highs, but we're still sitting back under that level now. Now, the question is going to be, do we get that resurgence this month? Or is it going to happen sometime in October, November? Well, Tom Lee, yet again, another bullish, basically champion for ETH, has said that he's expecting that we're going to hit $5,500 ETH here in the next, in the very near term. Probably, I would argue that would mean sometime between now and the middle of October. But he thinks that we could be going somewhere between, the $9,000 to $12,000 range on Ethereum by the end of the year. The question remains, will that happen? I don't know. We have to see how the market plays out, but this is looking very bullish when we're looking at Ethereum right here. But we got to look at a more informed chart as it relates to the broader crypto market, and that is the ETH to Bitcoin chart. And we've been talking about this for some time. Yes, this has been a very wonderful move on ETH, the ETH to Bitcoin pair. Again, this is ETH priced in Bitcoin. So if this is moving up, this means this is gaining more value against Bitcoin, and likely, in this case, it was also against the US dollar also. So if you're beating the dollar, great. But if you're not beating Bitcoin, then why are you even in that asset? In this case, this is showing, this is part of the reason why we've seen the ETH dominance fall. This has made some wonderful strides, but we're not in the clear yet for full alt season, because look at this trend line. We've talked about this before. This trend line, 987-day downtrend here. Yes, we broke back inside of this pattern, but technically, we're still within this downtrend. I mean, in reality, I should adjust this and put this out to there and say that is a 1,096. But this pushed to the upside, Kelly, great. We still have not taken out any previous range high. The only one we have is right here. But from this downtrend of all of these rejection points, this has not yet even broken that, which is also below the lows of this range. So technically speaking, we're still in a downtrend since this basically rollover here back in August 2022. Basically a 3-year downtrend coming into where we're at right now. Now, does this mean we're not going to get it? I still think we're still going to get that pop. The question is going to be if ETH to Bitcoin breaks out of this. And look at this, RSI is super high, double top on RSI, money flows pushed up, kind of coming back a bit. It wouldn't surprise me if we got a little bit of a move here to basically retest. Oops, let me move this, get that. It wouldn't surprise me if we got a little bit of a consolidation in here. And then we got the move. But the question is going to be, if this breaks out of this, do we make it all the way up to this trend line? And that trend line, let's double click here. That trend line is the major trend line that comes back here to 2017. So I'm going to be all eyes on this chart when I'm watching my altcoins, and I'm wondering when to take profits or when to, on a substantial way. I did take a little bit of profits last night because I didn't want to pay for stuff on credit or in cash. I'm up tremendously. So I was like, I'm going to rotate some out. I need to get a new king size bed. I got some golf clubs because I'm getting back into golf and stuff. But I wanted to make sure I'm utilizing some profits to also affect my real life. Now, in this case, when we're talking about altcoins, when do we sell? Well, the ETH to Bitcoin chart is going to be a major determining factor here because the price action is still under this trend line right here, which is back to 2022. If we break out of this and there's weakness around this area, the trend line that goes back to 2017, then this will be a key signal to me that this may be that alt season. If this is able to break out of this, it's a whole nother story. We get a continued boom there. Now, double click, follow the bot lab. I don't know what the bot lab is, but shout out to you, Lisa. But we're seeing some good things. Remember, Chainlink was consolidating also in a major symmetrical triangle here that went back to 2021, and this goes back to 2020. And this, I mean, we have broken out, but the key level we're really watching is above 31. The next level is 37, and the next level is $53, $54, which is the all-time high for Chainlink. If we can clear that, that's when we get to those targets that I set months, maybe almost a year ago. We're going to be looking for this target up here, basically just shy of $100. And then the safe top, and I think this is a very safe top, up in the $204 region. And then, you know, even still potentially up here into the 300s. The question is going to be, what trajectory does the Bitcoin and altcoin market go on beyond October and November? And beyond October and November is very important because there's still a lot of people that are considering that we have a very fixed 4-year cycle. Well, I question that, and I've been very vocal about that on here. I do think we will get a pullback this year that will convince many people that the 4-year cycle it's happening again. And they're going to be waiting for the price to go much lower before they re-enter. And I think they're going to get left behind, end up having to buy higher or just be out of the market. So when we're looking at these things and we realize we've got some work to do, but things are still looking very bullish. I mean, this whole formation is incredible. Pith, you know, on Solana, another Oracle play. This was a great move, you know, 75 something, 80% move. But look, we still have not even cleared this range high and this range low. We're still very much within this trajectory right here. This goes all the way back into this zone too. See, so once we clear this, notice something. Option F, come down to the bottom. We're nowhere near a fib there. Let's come here. Okay, nowhere near a fib there. I'd be watching this zone, this 25-cent zone. The next target up, which also has a lot of price confluence right in here, would be about the 39-cent zone. But we need to watch. See what I just did? We're talking to upside targets. So a lot of you are going to look at that and you're going to lose out because you think this is just going to go there. In fact, what's more likely to happen is this was exciting. We get a bit of a sell-off somewhere in this range right here. Why? Because we had these tops, this top right here. So basically somewhere in this range, we want to look for a basically bounce, little work. And then these areas are what wreck people because they think that's it. These areas I see, oh, great dip buying, great dip buying, great dip buying, if you believe in that asset. And this is true for Pith, this is true for Injective, this is true for ETH, for Cardano, it doesn't matter the asset. This is just the nature of how these markets and price structures work. And people forget that. So they see a green candle and the second it starts to move down, they get out and then it just absolutely launches. Next one up, we got Aerodrome. Still, I mean, broken out of this beautifully, rejected right at the golden pocket. Does that mean it's over? No, that's a normal retrace area. Look, rejected right at the golden pocket, comes down. We have this trend line that goes back to March of last year that if we extend this out a bit, it wouldn't surprise me to see price come down. And I talked about this 2 weeks ago, coming down into the 116, 115, 112 region. Retest this, maybe even a little bit of a fake out below this. It's over and then launch. I'm very bullish on what's coming for Arrow because everything going on with Base and the integration on the Coinbase. And then Crow has just been printing from this low here. Look at this. This is a 378% move. Now let's get on a little bit smaller time frame. And you notice, much like we just talked about with Pith, nice move up, consolidation, nice move up, small move down, bigger move up, and we're getting a bit of a pullback right now, and that's okay. The markets are feeling exciting. Things are getting frothy in the smallest sense on 3-minute candles, 15-minute candles. But the frothiness in a 3-minute candle, a 1-hour candle, meaning that you're going to get a little bit of a sell-off to see where the bulls come back in. It doesn't mean the midterm and the macro bull is over. We need to be able to buy the dips on, so we're prepared for these rips. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I got to roll because I got to run over to another space over on with Mario. Then I'm running over to the office. I'm trying to get the new office set up with Drew and the Discover Crypto guys, because my whole office has been broken down at the old studio. That's why I've been streaming from home. But I can't wait to get in the new office, get back super active in the Discord, member streams. I got a lot of, basically a lot of educational content that is from the Academy section, but I'm going to be posting in that for the members that are members on this channel that you are able to have access to and see, as well as the private member streams and stuff. Those are going to get reactivated throughout the week, but I might even be doing some stuff in the afternoons on Discover Crypto. So I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Find gratitude in yourself. Remember to be patient in the times where you're the most fearful. Let me say that again. If you want to make it in this market, crypto, trading, stocks, doesn't matter, any asset ever, actually any relationship ever, find patience in the times that are the most frustrating. Find patience in the times that you're the most fearful, because that's not the time to make the decision. When you're super frustrated or super fearful, you're probably going to make an emotional decision or an emotional reaction versus responding to what needs to happen, which is going to be a lot more effective for you, a lot more profitable in markets, and a lot more reasonably, just fulfilling in relationships in life. Find patience in moments of fear and frustration. You'll make better decisions. That's all I got for you today, everybody. Short stream today, but I love you. I'll see you in the next one. Adios, muchachos. And thank you to all the members that are here. We'll see you in the next one. Adios, muchachos. Thank you for coming. Thank you for always tuning in.